Welcome back to ESBR Boxing's YouTube channel in partnership with sharpbetting.co.uk. Delighted as always to be joined by Thomas Cathy. This is a reaction video to the fight between Gervonta Davis and Lamont Roach that took place in New York last night that ended in a controversial draw, I'm going to say. A fight that the vast majority of people thought Gervonta Davis was going to win and win quite handily, including us, Thomas. But here we are. Gervonta Davis with the first blemish on his record, and we're here to discuss what's next because it's a bit unclear. One I will first ask you about Gervonta Davis seems to have ruled out the possibility of a rematch, which may be a bit surprising. Usually, when there's a fight and it's controversial or it's a draw, a lot of the time you get an immediate rematch, and that doesn't seem to be at the forefront of Gervonta Davis's mind at the moment. Thoughts on that, Thomas? Why do you think it's unlikely that we're going to see a rematch next?
Well, it's messed up, first of all. I definitely think that Lamont deserves that rematch. Um, but it doesn't surprise me that that's not what Davis and his team wants to do. Um, I think if they really were angling for one of these big fights, like a Shakur Stevenson, for example, um, I think the last thing you want to do is jump back in with Lamont Roach just based off of how much difficulty he had with him and jeopardize that fight with Shakur. Obviously, if he lost, that would dampen a lot of the luster of that matchup. So, um, yeah, it's messed up that Lamont Roach, if he doesn't get a rematch, it's messed up. But at the same time, if I were like Gervonta's manager or advisor, yeah, I would advise him to steer clear of that because, there's bigger fights down the road, and the last thing you want is to take an L on the way to one of those big fights. So, yeah, probably the right decision for Davis, although I don't think it's really the right decision you know, for fans or for Lamont.
Yeah, it's for sure. I think it's a real shame. It's a shame for Lamont Roach because I don't think you're necessarily going to have guys queuing up to fight him. And I just think, look, we all saw what happened. Was it round nine as well? And you can't help but think that if that had happened, if what happened in round nine had happened with Lamont Roach, it would have been scored a knockdown. You kind of wouldn't have gotten away with it. So it's kind of I feel like we've kind of seen more of the bad side, the dark side of boxing in the last 24 hours or so. Um, we'll kind of see what happens. I feel like Gervonta Davis sometimes he has periods of inactivity. He's mentioned about kind of retiring soon. He's still only 30. So we'll kind of see what happens next. Me personally, I just think we're in an era of boxing now where we're seeing big fights happen. Most of them happening in Saudi Arabia, but some of them not. So I would still personally like to see him pursue a fight with Shakur Stevenson. I feel like that fight's in danger of not happening. Um, and I just think, yeah, I think that's still personally, if it was all up to me, that's the fight I would like to see. I would like to see happen. Do you agree with that, Thomas? Is that still kind of a fight that really appeals to you to happen next? Shakur Stevenson fought just a week ago. Gervonta Davis obviously fought last night. It's still a massive fight despite what happened last night between Davis and Roach. Where's your head at with it now?
No, I think now is the time for that fight. Strike while the iron's hot, or before Gervonta takes an L. Um, I think that's the obvious fight to make. I think that's what the fans want to see, and it's the toughest fight for Gervonta at that weight class, in my opinion, or for both guys, really. So yeah, I would love to see them make that fight happen. I'm not, well, before I wasn't as sure as if it were going to happen, but I think now, just based off of how close he came to losing, I think that perhaps they would be more willing to, you know, just jump in and make that fight happen.
Yeah, for sure. I hope so. Look, we need to see that fight. I don't know who wins that fight. I need an a kind of we need an answer. I don't want to kind of be here in 10, 15 years saying who I think this person won, you think that person would have won, or you we need to see this fight happen. It's maybe a topic for a different video, but I can't stand. I feel like we're now in this era with certain, if you don't mind me saying, American fighters who are just desperate to stay undefeated. Um, and I just think Gervonta Davis Shakur Stevenson fight, one of them loses, it's okay. They'll be back. And I just think that these guys have got these kind of really impressive records now. Whereas actually, if you break down who these guys have beaten, it's impressive, but it's not kind of out of this world impressive. That's just my opinion. Just a couple more from me, Thomas. I always like having a look at the rankings just to see kind of where they're at. One name that's ranked very highly is Floyd Schofield. Floyd Schofield, as we know, was supposed to fight Shakur Stevenson. I think dropped out on the Tuesday of fight week, I think, for last week in Saudi Arabia. Maybe it's a bit of a random one, but he is ranked very highly. If Gervonta Davis, I don't want to say easy, takes an easy fight next. Um, but maybe just wants to take a fight that's not going to be as difficult as a Lamont Roach rematch or Shakur Stevenson fight. Can you see that fight happening? And could you see Floyd Schofield taking that fight? It would be still be a big fight, still two undefeated Americans. Any thoughts on that?
Actually, it's it wouldn't surprise me if that fight got made or a fight similar to that. I feel like Gervonta's been he I don't want to call them easy fights, but he he's been fighting guys recently that are well, Lamont Roach has that one loss, but are unbeaten, young, um, perhaps too green, and I feel like Floyd Schofield would fit that bill. So yeah, it would if he's trending along the same kind of matchmaking that he and his team have been doing, then yeah, probably it wouldn't really surprise me if he matched up with Floyd Schofield next. But yeah, I we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Absolutely. Final question from me, Thomas, before I let you go. John Davis, 30 now. Is What happened last night? Like, is he past his best? Did he underestimate Lamont Roach? Was it just a bad performance? What's your what's your take on it and where he's kind of at in his career now? Because another reason why I'm asking this question is he was talking about saying this is his final year in the sport, and if it is, then fair enough. But I think another question I want to throw at you is, does he look like his heart is still in this game? What's kind of your response to all of that, please?
Um, based off of what he was saying going into the fight, yeah, it certainly seems that way, but I think in the fight I mean he basically fought the same kind of fight that he's been fighting,
Mm,
and I think this time it just didn't work against Lamont. Um, I think it's just as simple as that, he's always just takes minimal risks, and there if anything, actually, well, I think it was really more so of Lamont getting off to a slower start. I thought he would have gotten off to a faster start. I was going to say that Gervonta actually, you know, didn't get off to as slow of a start as he had in the past, but anyway, I don't really think that I don't think that we've seen any signs of slippage
no.
or I don't think that his performance suggests that he's like on his way out or anything. Yeah, it's just kind of the way he always fights, to be honest, in my opinion.
Yeah, we'll see. It's going to be really an interesting next step for Gervonta Davis. Um, Fantastic fighter. I think one of the most entertaining fighters in the world. The amount of kind of highlight reel knockouts he's given us over the last few years is fantastic. But it's interesting now. It's really interesting to see what he wants to do next because I feel like the Shakur Stevenson fight isn't going to go away. The Lamont Roach rematch isn't going to go away. So we'll see. It's really interesting. Thomas, good to be joined by you as always, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Likewise, thank you.